Hello and welcome to my channel. Bonsoir et bienvenue sur ma chaîne. My name is Muriel, and this evening I will be doing a review of More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon. Fair warning, I'm gonna try and do my best not to spoil the actual plot too much, but I am going to have to spoil some major elements of the story because I just can't talk about the main theme of this book without referring to that specific element I have in mind, so sorry about that. If you really want to go into this novel without knowing anything, then this review just isn't going to be for you, unfortunately. Before I get to the writing, just a quick summary of what the story is about. So More Than Human follows the lives of 5 to 6 different characters who are different. You have a developmentally disabled man, you have a young girl who runs away from home when she's 8, you've got a set of twins, there's a baby, there's a young boy also who's just been terribly mistreated throughout his childhood, and they basically all have paranormal abilities like telekinesis, telepathy, etc., and they all come together. That's really the basic premise. I'm obviously going to go into more detail as I go into the review. Now, as to the writing, I will give this to Theodore Sturgeon. This is actually quite beautifully written at times. There's something very lyrical, poetic about the writing. There's some beautiful passages, beautiful descriptions. So that was enjoyable. But I also have to mention that this novel is a mess when it comes to the overall structure. There are no chapters, and I really hate that in a book. And now, I didn't actually check this out, but I read on Goodreads, I think that this novel might have been published in a serialized form, which wasn't at all uncommon back then. That could explain some of it, because so there aren't any chapters, but the book is divided into 3 parts. Each part has its own title, but they're like several years separating each part. This is also, as you can see, not a very long novel, and it feels very disjointed at times. You have these decades-long jumps between parts of the story, and I don't know, I felt you didn't spend enough time with the characters to actually get significantly attached to them, or like just at the point when you thought you were gonna actually really learn something deep and meaningful about the character, the story jumped and you lost track of them. I was like, no, but why? And even within the separate parts themselves, you jump around from perspective to perspective. Without any chapters or point of view headers, this can easily become somewhat confusing. So yeah, no, big issue with the structure for me there. And also, I mean, theme-wise, I'm going to get back to this. Again, the different parts, beyond the fact that they're separated by several years, the tone of each feels very different. It's like a different kind of story each time. Almost feels like a collection of 3 short stories that are in the same overall story. I know that doesn't make much sense, but there's a lack of cohesion there that just didn't appeal to me at all. Moving on to the type of story. So, barring the fact that, like I said, you've got these 3 distinct parts that, to me, feel very disjointed, overall, I think it's kind of a coming-of-age story, if you will. It's about growing up, about discovering who and what you are, because all of the characters, except for one, are, well, children at the beginning of the story. The idiot, and apologies for using that term, but like I said, that's the term employed in the novel, whose name becomes Lone. He's about 25 at the beginning of the novel, but all the other characters are like 8 or even 5 or even 2 years old, and you even have a baby who never grows up because he has Down syndrome. I'm not sure where that came from, like people with Down syndrome still grow up. Okay, yeah, so coming of age, and generally a story of maturation, I guess, growing in wisdom and compassion, just becoming an adult and becoming a better person, what it means to be human, although that touches upon the theme, so I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, a coming of age story, but like I said, it's very disjointed overall, and also, I will say, it is technically a work of science fiction, but the air quotes are entirely justified in my opinion, because it barely qualifies as science fiction. Someone on Goodreads mentioned magical realism. Honestly, there is a bit of that going on. There is a reference to like a classically science fiction-y bit of technology, an anti-gravity generator, okay? You do have these paranormal abilities, which can fall under the auspices of science fiction or fantasy. I guess the science element refers to, broadly speaking, evolution, but again, I'm gonna come back to that. I don't think it really worked, so yeah, barely science fiction in my opinion. So talking about the characters is going to be a little more complicated because, so I mentioned that unfortunately at a point when you feel like you're actually getting to know a character and care about them, suddenly you jump to either another perspective or ahead in the story like years later. So you might leave a character when they're 8 years old and encounter them again when they're 20. So there's a disconnection between, I think, the reader, or at least between me, the reader, and the characters, and you don't really care about them that much. And some of them then end up not being, in my opinion, fully realized, not satisfyingly characterized as well people. So there's a superficiality to it that I found disappointing and a little annoying too. Like I said, you have a 25-year-old at the beginning of the story, man named Lone, and he's an idiot, so he's cognitively disabled. Then he sort of ends up being less so. He can't read, but he can communicate with people, he can still grasp a lot of concepts. So his ability is that he's a telepath. He can read people's minds and communicate with his mind directly with other people. And he encounters a girl on a country estate. There's an enlightenment moment. I'm not going to go into details. And her sister, Alicia, becomes a secondary character in the story. I'll get back to her. Then Lone goes to live with a couple of farmers who, because he gets beaten up and within an inch of his life basically, and they, well, nurse him back to health and they treat him as an adoptive son, so he lives on the farm for a while, and then he leaves and he goes into the forest and builds a cabin. Then 3 girls join him. So the 3 girls ran away from their homes together. You have Janie, who can do telekinesis, and she's also, contrarily to Lone, cognitively advanced. Like, she's 5 years old at the beginning of the story, and she's very, very intelligent, a lot more aware than your average 5-year-old. Next to her live these twin little girls, African-American little girls, who can teleport anywhere, but they can't talk. Between the 2 of them, they have 2 words, hee and ho-ho. I swear I'm not making this up. I know it sounds ridiculous. So their father seems like an alright guy. I mean, he's a janitor. And Janie's mum is completely freaked out by her daughter, can't spare any time for her. So they run away. They end up with Lone. So the little twin girls, they're named Beanie and Bonnie. Honestly, they act kind of like token characters. There's not much to them. Janie, ironically, I think, is the character who has the greatest character arc, maybe, or at least the most consistent throughout the novel. She was, I guess, my favorite character. There's a lot of compassion to her and empathy. When she's a little girl, she's very mischievous and she wants to mess with her mum and just wants to survive with the little twins. But then she really grows as a person and has a lot of concern for what her group is doing. So I liked her arc. So in the meantime, so you have Lone, he goes back to the farm and basically the couple of farmers have a baby and that baby ends up having Down syndrome. And he never grows up. But bizarrely, he can figure out any type of problem that is submitted to him. So by way of mind speech and symbols and things, it's hard to explain. If you ask a question of him, and he's just called Baby. So if you ask a question of Baby, Baby will give you the answer. It's like that magical computer in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that can give you any answer to any question. Yeah, he's just like he's like a human computer who has Down syndrome and never grows up. So they all live together in a little cabin, and then another boy joins them. His name is Jerry Thompson, and Jerry Thompson is also a telepath. He's got major behavioral issues, which is understandable since he's been an orphan all his life and ran away from the state home when he was 8 and wound up on the street. He has a lot of anger and hatred, and he grows into a bit of a narcissist and an asshole, really. Though he does care for his little group, his little family. The why of it, I'm gonna get to in a minute when I talk about the themes. And then all that little group ends up with Miss Alicia Q. She lives with the group of children and looks after them. And at some point there's also another character called Hip Barrows, and he's a prodigy engineer, basically, very intelligent, also works for the Air Force at some point. And he gets embroiled with the group, and he's just also kind of an arrogant young man. He works very hard to earn everything he gets, but that also makes him insecure, and he has a bit of an inferiority complex going on, I guess. But he becomes a better person too. I mean, the overall arc of every character is one of growth, sometimes of redemption in the case of Jerry Thompson. I mean, in the case of Janie, like I said, I think that was the best one. It's just, yeah, becoming a good human being, a good person, embracing your humanity, at least the positive sides of one's humanity. A lot of it was very superficial, like I said. That really bothered me. It's just a bit of a mess, this novel. But yeah, basically it's a bunch of misfit kids and a young adult growing into, well, misfit adults, but better adults, more human adults, is all I can really say. So, what this group of characters amounts to is something the author calls in the novel Homo Gestalt, instead of Homo sapiens, and the idea is that this is the next stage in human evolution. So the main theme of the novel, I guess, is human evolution, although that masks, I think, a greater theme, maybe, of what does it mean to be human. I don't think this was very well done, and I will get to why. But so, the idea is that all those characters, they all have a special power. Telekinesis, telepathy, teleportation, human computing, and so every person in that group acts as an analog for a body part. I mean, that's the image they use, right? So the telepath is the head in the sense that they're the leader, like the executive functioning in the brain. The human computing is just the raw brain power. The teleporting are the limbs that move around and get stuff. And Janie, the telekineticist, is the body, so she sort of acts as a cohesion factor. She keeps everyone together and can move things around. I think the analogy kind of falls flat there, but let's just run with it. So they're all part of this greater whole, and this is the next step in human evolution. Yeah, but no, I mean, a bit of context here might be needed. See, I actually studied biology at university, right? I was reading this and that's not how evolution works, mate. Like, this is not Darwinian, this is not natural selection, it's just bad science. Or at least a very bad foundation for science fiction. Like, there's this idea that the next stage of human evolution is better, you know, there's a moral value judgment, but that's not what evolution is about. It's not about a species being better than another in any sense of value or worth. It's just different species are better suited to different kinds of environments, and traits have been selected because they confer an adaptive advantage, and they get to reproduce and pass on their genetic material. I'm like, so this is not evolution. Also, there's just lots of technical aspects that I'm like, how is this actually going to work? So, for example, fine, the emergence of a new species. A species made of Homo sapienses who have mental faculties. They're still technically human beings though, but together they form another species. Like, that just does not work with higher animals, alright? We're not slime balls. We're higher primates. It's kind of ridiculous. It's just not credible for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people who are familiar with the basic workings of biology and Darwinian evolution. So that just really bugged me. Another thing is, like, how is this new species going to propagate or perpetuate itself? So what, they should find another Homo Gestalt grouping / entity? They're gonna have children together. How's that gonna work? The children are gonna have some kind of psychic ability, and they're gonna have to find another group. I'm like, how is any of this supposed to work? I don't get it. It's just, no, that's not how evolution works. It's just not. It's not a question of being better, as in superior. Oh, you can move things with your mind. It makes you superior to this lowly human who can only create an airplane. Like, no, like, you need an adaptive advantage. Oh god, it was so frustrating. And so these kids, who are outcasts, obviously they develop this sense of superiority and we're alone against the world of Homo sapiens, we're the only ones of our kind and our species. And so we have this profound sense of alienation from everyone and everything else, and we've got to band together and basically become amoral assholes to defend ourselves. Well, not all of them, but at least one of the leading characters. Thankfully, you do have Janie, who does take issue with that. And, okay, so there was a major contradiction as well, because at some point she says, at that moment, because she gets a crush on one of the later characters, I felt very human. Well, I'm like, well, so are you human or not? You're supposed to be a different species, but you felt human, so you still have humanity inside of you. And I was like, See, it's one of those situations where I started liking the novel. I thought it was weird, but good weird. Because I think there's bad weird and good weird. I was like, this is really different and weird, but I like it, it's interesting. And then towards the middle I was like, alright, not sure about that turn the story is taking there. And then by the end I was like, oh come on, just no, it's not how this works. I mean, this might be old science fiction, I don't care. It has to stand on its own today, alright? And it doesn't. I don't care that the scientific understanding of the world wasn't the same, that we hadn't yet cracked the human genome. I mean, Darwinian evolution was already a well-established concept, so there's no excuse there. And the kicker is that by the end of the novel, I'm not going to spoil the specific ending, but it's basically this preachy, moralizing, feel-good message that, oh, everyone was human all along, and the characters are just supposed to not be the next stage in human evolution, but just embody the best aspects of humanity. And there's this weird, almost, I don't know, quasi-mystical experience going on. Now, hey, I'm not an atheist. I don't mind some spirituality, but it's got to make sense. It's got to fit in with the rest. And I was like reading, and it's like the last page of the novel. I'm not going to say what it is exactly. I was like, are you bloody kidding me? This is ridiculous. Oh, come on, mate. Really? That's what you're going with? Do you really have to serve us up with this claptrap? Come on. Like, if you're gonna have a central thesis, just stick to it. Own your shit. Don't devolve it to this preachy rainbows and unicorns and we're all human and humanity is beautiful and blah, blah, blah. Oh, come on. Really? Now, one thing I did find interesting, maybe, is that, weirdly enough, there's quite a bit of focus on, like, psychoanalysis or, memory regression techniques. I was like, that's an interesting bit to throw in there about self-exploration and self-understanding. Those scenes were actually, I guess, entertaining to read and engaging to see the characters just go back through their memories. And this happens twice, which also is a bit repetitive, but I enjoyed that. But I mean, it's not actually a theme unto itself, but I thought I'd mention it. But yeah, so you have this central theme of human evolution, at least at first overarching glance, I guess. But then it sort of twists around and it's like, what does it mean to be human? Because ultimately it's about being human? Maybe. It wasn't convincing. It didn't work for me. I'm annoyed. And honestly, at several moments in the novel, I will say, I wanted to shout at the characters, you people aren't more than human. You're not better than the rest of us. You're not superior. In fact, I want to say, this isn't more than human. You're less than human because you're just sacrificing your individuality to be this entity that isn't even that nice or good. So, yeah, major fail for me. And that's all I have to say about that. I hope I didn't rant too much, but yeah, that's what I thought about More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon. I did not like this novel. I'm so glad I read it. I'm glad that I read older classical science fiction. It's always good to have this in my reference memory bank. Never a waste of time. Or it can be sometimes a waste of time, but in this case I don't think it was a waste of time, it was just not good. But thankfully I also recently read good older science fiction, which I'll talk about in a future video. In the meantime, I hope you all have a lovely day or evening. Please do share your thoughts on this novel if you have read it, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye!